22 singles on 13 albums, 10 years since the band got going. Did you ever think that it would last this long?
No, they're shocking statistics.
I know they are. I couldn't believe it when
Did you count them?
I did.
I've never bothered to count them. I didn't realise there's more than 20 now. No, I mean, I'm shocked by it now. I never would have thought that we'd have kept going as long as we have. I'm glad that we have. And looking back, out of most of those recordings, in fact, virtually every single one, I'm pleased that we did it the way that we did. So it's sort of shocking in one way and not in another. It doesn't seem that long. It doesn't seem like we've been doing it long enough to have had 22 singles. It's like everything, I suppose. It's just like normal life. When you look back, you sort of, if you start to think about the small things that you've done, and you realise that you have done an awful lot. But if you look back on what you've done in total, it doesn't seem like you've done very much. It doesn't seem like you've been around very long. I mean, I don't feel as old as I should. I often think that's probably because I've got such a bad memory that I've only actually lived about, well, that and drink and sleep. I've probably only lived for about 3 years anyway that I can remember. But it's strange in a way, having done so many records, because it does actually give a perspective to the group which we wouldn't otherwise have if we waited like 3 years between albums, I suppose, or longer, and still been around, you know, as long as we have. There wouldn't be as great an impression of time. I suppose when I sort of sit and think about it, if you went through each record and like gave me the title, I could sit here for like a day or more just thinking about each one and what went into it. So it has actually helped in a way to give a perspective to the group, because all the things that would otherwise have been lost are remembered in those records. It's quite nice, really, like little diaries.
It's good to hear you say that you're pleased with everything that you've done. You're proud of everything that you've done, because quite often people look back and go, actually the first 3 singles were, you know, a pile of proverbial.
Yeah, and then they try and get serious. I suppose before we started making records, we were. I'm glad that, even though it seemed like we were very young when we started, like as only 18 when the first record was done, we were playing and stuff like for 2 years before that, and there was no sort of ultimate goal. We were just doing it because what else could you do when you're still at school? I mean, you just wanted to be in a group. I knew that I wouldn't be a footballer by then. I was staying up too late. But it's really just knowing what you want to do. If you're going to do it, I mean, everyone says, I suppose, but even when you're young, you pretend that you don't want to do it seriously. But if you're in a group, you know that, I mean, it's a really brilliant thing to do. There's one side of it that's just, I mean, it's so stupid that it's good fun. And however ho-faced everyone gets about it and how serious you want to be about it, there's a part of it that's just brilliant fun. But you have to, if you want to like keep it going, you have to sort of know what you want to do. Otherwise, you might think, well, we'll have 2 years of really good fun, and then I'll go off and do something else. And if you want to do that, it's fine. But I feel that I don't know, people are too enticed by the attractions of like being famous and all that goes with it, and they shouldn't be, because we weren't. I mean, I still can think of the things that outweigh being famous, like the bad things, that they're always far more in evidence than the good things. Apart from people like smiling at you and saying hello that don't know you, that's nice. But being able to have the economic freedom within a group to do what you want, which comes with, I suppose, being more well known, that's a good thing. But the actual thing about being famous and getting into clubs and seats in restaurants, it's nonsense. It's like, it's not a good reason to do something. And that, I just think that breathing space right at the beginning gave us the opportunity to think about. I mean, it certainly gave me the opportunity to think about what I actually wanted to do. And if I really wanted to do something seriously, I'd have to work very hard at it. I mean, not very hard, not like climbing up ladders, but I think, I don't know, there's a very strange picture painted nowadays of what it is to be in a group. The mythology of like, if you're, you know, you flare bright and you flare short, and that's nonsense, because there's always the same old blackguards sitting behind desks, sort of raking it in and manipulating everyone. And it's what we've done is that we've gone round behind them. We've like come in through a different door and upset a lot of people, and I think it's really good. I think everyone should do it like we've done it.
Do you feel as though you've been in control?
Yeah, that's why I'm not ashamed of anything that we've done. In fact, the only thing possibly that I would have changed would be just the sound of the very first album, and that's all. Everything else is, I mean, if we did it now, it'd be different. But as a history, it's as close to being how I would want it. If I'd been 17, you know, if I was 17 now, and you said to me, what would you want The Cure to be like like in 13, 14 years' time, it would be pretty close to what it is at the moment. So, and that is really, I mean, I've devoted a lot of time to making sure that it's ended up like this, but at the same time, it's only because I've done everything that I've wanted to do in a sort of, because I wanted to do it. I haven't ever listened to people. That's another thing. Someone was, I think it was Peter Cook was saying on telly the other night, that people always, that was John Cleese was saying, people always pretend, and he's talking about Monty Python, that you go somewhere and people always pretend they know what's right, particularly in show business, what's going to work and what isn't. And he's saying when they started, they had to completely disregard everyone because everyone was telling them what they were doing was wrong. It wouldn't make people laugh and it wouldn't work. And that's very much like when we were going through the period when we were doing 17 Seconds of Faith. Everyone around us was saying, "Oh, you know, the way you look and what, like the pop songs like Boys Don't Cry, and that you could be, you know, top of the charts. Just do this." But because we didn't want to, no one could ever see a long-term sort of future to it, and nor could I at the time. But I just knew that I wanted to do that with the group at that time. And I suppose we've either been very lucky or very clever, or sort of a mixture of the two, I think. But I think it really boils down to just people eventually appreciate that someone is doing something because they want to, and that's come through. It's taken quite a while. I mean, it took sort of about 4 or 5 years until people began to appreciate that what we were doing was just because we wanted to. We weren't trying to do something extremely clever and try and trick people. We were just doing just what came naturally. But it's sort of upsets a lot of people that are used to taking control, the people that sit there and are supposed to make the decisions. They didn't actually respect us for doing that. They were desperately hoping, and there's still a lot of people around in various parts of the media as well that have been waiting for us to fail for years just because we haven't done it conventionally. But it worked. That's balanced out by the other side, which is like the public side, who appreciate totally the fact that, I mean, that's why what people call our fan base, but it's actually just like people who are interested in the group and remain interested, because they know that even if they don't like something that we've done it for no other reason because we want to do it. And it's, I mean, the people that I genuinely like Kate Bush and the Cocktail Twins, work on exactly the same principle. And it's like whether they succeed or fail commercially, it's immaterial really. I'll always go out and listen to certain people. I always go and buy the records. Neil Young, New Order. There are people that do things just because they want to, and they do them the way they want to. I mean, there's always people come along who do things in a totally crass way and come up with a brilliant record. And I've got that. I'm not a musical snob. I think that's just as excellent. But I actually will always, you know, that's how you build up a kind of a feeling, I suppose, for a group. I mean, I'm a big fan of certain groups. And I suppose that when people talk about The Cure, there's always the element. There are a lot of people who really like the group, even though they might have hated, I mean, 3 or 4 of our last sort of 5 or 6 records. They'll still go out and buy the next one, because they know that we're capable of doing something that's interesting.
The fact that you started the whole thing when you were so young, I mean, you're actually growing up really with The Cure, and that could have led to lots and lots of problems really.
Because there's a nucleus of people that all stay together right from the start, I think that led to a certain stability for everyone really, not just for me. And people have been shed, I suppose, gently, contrary to what most outsiders like to believe about The Cure. They say there's a really high turnover of band members and stuff, and there isn't at all. There's like I think now there's 8 ex-Cures and 5 current ones. Michael, Phil, Andy, Simon's ex and back, Paul's ex and back, Lowell, Matthew, Roger. 6. Yeah, so it's in fact 6 and 5. So that's only 11 in 13 years. And 5 of us are still in the group. And of those 6, 5 I'm sort of talking to. So it's not that bad. But because it's been sort of, you know, like sort of gradually flowing onwards, and like everyone knew everyone else, and even the people that joined, like right from the start. I mean, at the beginning, like with most groups, they're like school friends and stuff, and that as that sort of progresses through, other people come either like work for you. I mean, a lot of people that have been in The Cure have actually started off just being with us, like on tour, or just like working with, or not even about getting paid, but just like being around us because it was good fun. And I've ended up being in the group. In fact, that's saying most people, the newcomers, have ended up in the group, and have put sort of some have passed on, passed through the group, just because, the usual sort of reasons, either they didn't really get on too well anymore because sort of people change, or they didn't really like what we were doing musically within the group, or the attitude or something. But nothing was ever too big really to get in the way of me still being friends with everyone, which I thought was always like the basic premise of anyone being involved with anything to do with the Cure setup. It's always far more to do with what your mental state is than your actually like your ability, whether it be like musical or sort of like the reason why we stayed with Bill, Chris Parry, he's absurd really, but we stuck with him because he appreciates what we're trying to do, and he's actually like he's developed his own style in his own world, his business sort of dealing with the fools, the same as we've developed our own style. So I just like people around that change, that actually like that appreciate things and are willing to experience different things, but that don't intrinsically change, don't actually change their attitudes or their morality or their ethics too much. That side of things is sort of left untouched. And also it's obviously helped having Mary there like all the way through. I knew her for years before the group, and so I can never really get that sort of that precious and flouncy about being the singer in the Cure, because she remembers as well as I do what it was like before the Cure, and hopefully we'll both be like looking forward to life beyond the Cure. So it's a part of me. I've grown up in it, and I've certainly grown up in public a lot with the Cure, a certain side of me, but it's also allowed me in a strange way to have an enormous amount of private time, of like unusual private time, like being able to go for walks on Beachy Head like at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, whereas if I was doing a normal job I probably wouldn't be able to because I'd get the sack. So like with everything, there's two sides to it.